Hello, this is a little video on how to loop music in MetaSounds using embedded markers or cue points. So the idea is that you have a music file and it's a loop, and at the end of it there may be a resonant tail. So with MetaSounds we play this file and we could count the number of measures. So if there's 4 measures, we could set up a counter, and after the 4th measure we could then play a copy of this file so that this plays while the resonance of the previous file played. But it's much easier to do this with execues, but this can cause some problems with synchronization if we want to use stingers. So here's a workaround. First, just to show you, here I have just 4 beats. And after the 4th beat, so on the beginning of the next measure, I have a marker called execute, and in Reaper I've exported this with markers only here. So the exported file looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the execute, and here's my long resonant tail. And in MetaSounds, to create the system, I have a trigger sequence here that first plays a wave player that plays that file, and after that something's going to trigger the trigger sequence again. It's set on loop, so it's going to play this one, and then something's going to trigger the sequence again, so it plays that one. So we'll alternate between the two, and it won't cut off the resonant tail. So what we can do is, I've already created the variables, but I'll just show you how it works. So you can create a variable called onCuePoint for both of these. And we want, when we get to the cue point, we want to play this one. So you would think that you could drag them both out onto the graph and then play them again, but we get this connection causes loop error. So to get past that, we hold Alt down and drag it, and we have a delayed variable. So this isn't technically right on the cue point, but there's an imperceptible delay. So right now we're going to play this. When we get to our cue point, after a delay of, I think, 1 buffer or frame, I'm not sure what it is, but a very short value of time, we will then trigger the sequence again. It will play this. When we get to the cue point, after a minor delay, it will play the next one. So it sounds like this. That works, and if all you want to do is loop a file, that works fine. It's simple. You just have to export it the right way. You don't have to set up a counter. But the problem is that if we at one point want to play a stinger that's synchronized with the beat, we're going to run into a problem. So to show you that, I've created a little metronome here. This is just a trigger repeat that's going to start on play, set to 80 BPM, and this is just triggering a sine wave with a very short attack time. So now when I play this, we're going to hear our metronome, and eventually we'll hear that these don't remain in sync, because what's happening is that every time the cycle repeats, the delay of the cue points are sort of stacking. So what starts as an imperceptible delay, after several cycles, becomes quite perceptible. So play it. Now I'm going to pause my recording so you don't have to listen to all this, but I'll come back in like 30 seconds. We'll spend like 30 seconds or a minute. Now if I fade in the audio, you hear it's not synced anymore, and this will just get more and more obvious. So I'm not going to explain how to set up stingers, but basically you set up a trigger repeat. You can have a trigger once. Your trigger repeat can count quarter notes or whatever, and then you can have an input so that it opens up your gate, and that you trigger your stinger on the next beat if you want. But obviously that's not going to work because we're not synchronized with our counter here. But we can sort of fix this. The idea is that we have on cue points and we also have on play. So we're going to need to restart this trigger repeat for every cycle. First, I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to put my cue points into a trigger any. 2. I'm going to create a variable, and I'll call this my exit cue. And now I'll play that there. And you'll see why I did this soon. It's just to keep things a little bit tidier. So basically what I want to do is when we get to our cue point, our exit cue, I want to stop my trigger repeat. And I want to start it again whenever we play it. But this won't work with on play because it's the first time we play the MetaSound. So it's going to stop. But what we can do is use these outputs or these triggers that on play here. So I can create a variable and I'll do like I do with my exit cue. I'll just call this, oops, I'll call it on play. And now I want to start the trigger repeat when I play either one of these, and then stop it at the execute. Let's see what happens now. Stopped again because I think it's because this cue point has a minor delay, and that's actually triggering right after the on play because this is triggering our exit point is on the first beat of which the next file starts. So given that this has a delay, it's stopping it. So what I'll do is instead of putting on plays there, I'll get delayed variables. I can change this to on play delayed. And now when I play it, it continues. And technically, our metronome is slightly out of sync. I can't hear a difference. and it will continue to, it won't get more out of sync because we're effectively resetting our metronome at each cycle. So I'm going to pause the video so you don't have to listen. I'll come back in a minute to prove this to you. All right, a bit of time has passed and we're still sync. On a side note, I don't know why I have this trigger counter and trigger repair compare there. But that's it. So this is a way that I think it simplifies the workflow a bit. It allows you to use markers, not have to deal with any of the counters when you're looping files with resonant tails, and you can stay in sync to a counter by resetting it each time the loop restarts. If it's just one delay, if it's just offset by one delay, it's not perceptible, I don't think, at least. I found this has worked, but let me know if you see any problems with this or if it works for you. Good luck.